Happening now on Grid tonight, Hailie Deegan's returning to the Truck Series for a third full season, and this caught some people by surprise, expecting a move to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Will Deegan show progress in 2023? We know the teams will be a part of the inaugural 2023 Formula One Academy season. Will the new all-female racing series give young women realistic opportunities to move up the road to F1 ladder? The FIA banned F1 drivers from making what they consider political statements. Will silencing the drivers end up taking Formula One in the wrong direction? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish, and we have a full house tonight. With me is Joshua Birch, Ben Snyder, and Daniel Zeri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask any questions you may have. Now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. After spending the last 2 years with Toyota, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series team ThorSport Racing is reuniting with Ford Performance in 2023. Matt Crafton, Ben Rhodes, and Ty Majeski will return to the organisation with one new driver joining the ThorSport lineup. Hailie Deegan will return to the Truck Series to drive full-time for ThorSport in the number 13 Ford F-150. This will be Deegan's third full season competing in trucks. In her first 2 seasons, she's only had 3 top 10 finishes and an average finish of 21st.4, photo taken by Sean Gardner from Getty Images. Now, joining us is Ben as well on the show tonight. Entering year 3 of racing in the Truck Series, will 2023 be a make or break year for Deegan's relationship with Ford and her NASCAR career in general? We'll start with Ben.
I believe it is absolutely a make or break season for Hailie Deegan. And I've been saying this on this show and other grid programming all year. With Hailie Deegan and her career, at some point, there needs to be a clear step forward in her development and the results need to improve. Now, she did improve a little bit, I would say, in her sophomore Truck Series season compared to her rookie season. She went from 1 top 10 finish to 2 top 10 finishes. So, it's been, I think, a slower development and a slower progression than a lot of people expected looking back from her K&N and even her ARCA season in 2020 from those years where she was on the development ladder there. But, when it comes to Hailie Deegan, when she won at Meridian in 2018, when she picked up a couple more K&N West wins, and then started to progress to ARCA, everyone was saying she was the next Danica Patrick. She was going to exceed what Danica Patrick did. She looked like a potential future Cup superstar that could put NASCAR back in the national media sports landscape and spotlight there. And I just haven't seen anything from her yet that has indicated to me that she's going to get to that point. At some point, you need to take that step forward. And 2 top 10s in a truck that I believe is capable of winning races. People said David Gilliland Racing wasn't a top team. I'm sorry. I'm not buying that. The 17 truck won multiple races last year with Todd Gilliland and Ryan Preece. A satellite truck, if you will, Front Row Motorsports. I know they didn't get as much from DGR in 2022 as they did probably when Todd was racing there, but they just won the championship. So it's not like, she was in underfunded equipment here with Ford Performance. She had an opportunity and continues to have that opportunity with ThorSport to go out and compete for, if not race wins, top 5s and top 10s at minimum on a weekly basis. And ThorSport proves year in and year out that they are capable of competing for championships. Matt Crafton's a 3-time champion. Ben Rhodes is just coming off of a championship in 2021, had a shot to defend it again this year. There's no excuse anymore. I'm not even sure there was the last couple of years when it comes to the equipment, but there's certainly no excuse when you're driving a ThorSport truck. And in fairness to Hailie, I'm sure she knows this, and she knows that there needs to be a step taken forward in 2023. But when it comes to this season and this upcoming year, it's make or break, no doubt. And in fairness to her, again, she had a great run in her Xfinity Series debut. I'd like to see her maybe run a few more of those races this year, and we'll see what comes in 2024 and beyond. But she has to, she can't just continue to take baby steps and have maybe 3 top 10s this year in a ThorSport truck. There needs to be a clear, decisive step forward in her progression and improvement, and I just haven't seen that yet. Hopefully, for the sake of her career, we'll see that in 2023 with ThorSport Racing, because it is absolutely make or break.
I definitely agree with you, Ben. It's certainly a make or break season for Hailie Deegan. And like you mentioned, ThorSport, one of the top teams in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. If you're not getting it done in a ThorSport truck, I really don't know what to tell you. And I'm sure, and we all know sometimes when teams change manufacturer, we see a drop off in performance. But across the board, when we're looking at ThorSport as a whole in 2023, if Matt Kraft and Ben Rose and Ty Majeski have off years, and Hailie's not performing well either, then we'll know it's a manufacturer change. But if those three drivers are in the playoffs again, winning races in the fight for the championship, then we'll know the equipment is not the answer. And I think in year 3, Hailie Deegan absolutely has to show a lot of progress. I'd argue that she needs to make the playoffs, or at least be on the brink of making the playoffs, to show some major improvement, because I understand, when these drivers are coming up through the ladder, people really want to judge them based on like 1 year, 2 years, and if you're not getting it done right off the bat, then they consider you a bust, and they don't think you deserve the high quality ride you have anymore. But with some drivers, it takes them a lot longer to really get going, and it'll be interesting to see if in her junior season in the Truck Series, if Hailie Deegan's going to be able to take that next step forward. Because I feel like if year 3 is a disappointment with Ford Performance, ThorSport, this could be the end of the road between Hailie's relationship with Ford and her NASCAR career. Could certainly be at a crossroads. And right there, got a question in the chat room from Adam Limmery saying, will Hailie have at least one top 5 finish in 2023? Well, I certainly think that would be a major step up for Hailie to get up into the top 5. I'm going to go out and make a prediction here. I think Hailie Deegan will get at least one top 5 finish next year. Ben, do you agree with that?
Well, that's something she still hasn't done, and it's something actually that Natalie Decker did at Daytona in 2020 that Hailie still has yet to do, is finish in the top 5 in a Craftsman Truck Series race. So you would hope that she could get at least one of those for sure. I would hope to see multiple top 5s driving a ThorSport truck. She did come close. I think she finished 6th at Talladega this past fall. So I would say, if I had to make a prediction, yes. If the prediction turns out to be untrue and she ends up not doing that, then I think it's major trouble for her future and the relationship that she's got with Ford.
Yeah.
Quick. Go, Kevin.
I was just going to read another comment in the chat room right here from Ken, saying that you think Hailie will not improve upon her racing, never in the top 10 entire race. Her 2 top 10s came in mostly last lap wrecks. She might improve in the middle of the year, but she needs to run top 10. Certainly can. Hailie needs to show a lot of improvement, running the top 10 more consistently, finish in the top 10, and get those top 5s. Because as we've been saying, in a ThorSport truck, if you're not performing in that, because that's one of the top teams in the series, been the top teams in the series for years. I know we'll get a little bit more into ThorSport in a second, but they're really putting all the right pieces around her right now to make sure she's as successful as she can be.
Yeah, absolutely. You literally, what I was going to say was the comment that just came through as well. I wanted to throw that to you as well. And as Kobe did mention earlier on in the introduction, a lot of people did expect Deegan to move up to the Xfinity series instead of another year in the trucks as well. Whether or not she was performing well or not, a 3rd year in trucks is very unusual. She did make an Xfinity debut at Las Vegas in the fall and finished 13th in one of her strongest performances of the 2022 season. Deegan would like to run some Xfinity races in 2023, but it all depends, crucially, of course, on sponsorship. We've said plenty of times in the past that performance in the Truck Series doesn't always indicate how good a driver will be long term. You two have made that point as well here tonight as well, about how crucial it is to perform in this 3rd year. Next year, Ford is giving her a great chance to succeed with ThorSport, a great championship winning organization, being paired with championship winning crew chief, of course, with Rich Lucius as well. But guys, is ThorSport the right team to help Deegan find the best chance of success? And do you think more Xfinity races will be helpful to her in the future?
And before I answer your question, Josh's going to respond to some more comments in our active chat room tonight. Got Casey Campbell saying, what are your thoughts on the 2023 SRX schedule? Casey, if you stick around to the very end, once we get to our whole lineup of other news stories, we'll talk about that a little more. But my overall thoughts, an interesting group of tracks. I'm a little disappointed they didn't get North Wilkesboro on the schedule, but hey, maybe that'll be something for 2024. And Adam Lemeries says that he loves it. Going to Thunder Road is awesome. It's a home track of the great Ken Squire. And in response to Hailie Deegan, Ken says that I believe you're referring to Deegan, saying that she needs to go to Chevy and race for Junior Motorsports in 2024 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Yeah, so we'll see what Hailie Deegan's future holds. Right now, she's a Ford driver, and if Hailie doesn't perform, we'll see if she will go back to Toyota or Chevrolet is willing to pick her up. And right now, she's actually struggling to get sponsorship dollars to go to Xfinity. It seemed like Hailie was really interested in going to the Xfinity, but unfortunately, all of that didn't work out for her. But getting back to the question you asked, Josh, I think ThorSport is absolutely the right team for Hailie Deegan to be successful. I think they're putting her in the best possible situation that she could be in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Look at her teammates. You mentioned it. Matt Crafton, multi-time truck champion, and he's always in the hunt in the thick of thing. Ben Rose, he's a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion. Ty Majeski, he was competing for the championship this year in Phoenix. So she has three very experienced teammates who know how to get it done at this level of NASCAR. So I think those are going to be three important drivers that she'll have to lean on in year three of Truck Series competition. And Ben Rose, unfortunately, lost his crew chief. Rich Lucius is going to be going over to Hailie Deegan. So one of their strongest crew chiefs they have at ThorSport is going to be on the box calling the shots. And Rich Lucius is certainly one of the best out there. So she's going to have someone who's very experienced, knows how to get the job done to help her along. So I think, considering the organization, they have championship winning pedigree, got a championship winning crew chief, best one despite the manufacturer change, they have past relationship with Ford, and I'm sure that they're going to hit the ground running at the beginning of 2023. So Hailie Deegan is in a really, really, really good situation to succeed, and if she doesn't rise to the occasion, like we've been saying, it could certainly there could be some tough conversations between her and Ford in the future. And in regards to NASCAR Xfinity Series races, as long as they can find the money to do it, I think it would be very beneficial for her to run some Xfinity races again with SS Greenlight Racing and a Stewart-Haas prepared car. She went to Las Vegas and performed a lot better than what many of us expected her to do. So I think if Hailie gets some more Xfinity races on their belt, extra track time, that will certainly help. After seeing that first Xfinity race, it looked really, really promising of what she can do behind the wheel of a race car. But that was just one race. I like to see her in some more Xfinity races. But like I said, this is something that she really wants to do, but it comes down to sponsorship money.
I think one of the most underrated statistics in our sport right now in NASCAR, all throughout the top three divisions, is Matt Crafton's consecutive Truck Series start streak. Dates all the way back to 2000, and the vast majority of it has been with ThorSport Racing. So you want to talk about experience, having a teammate like that. It doesn't get much better than that for Hailie Deegan going into next year. So I think ThorSport is absolutely a great opportunity for her. Again, I think a lot of us were expecting something with Xfinity, maybe a Stewart-Haas alliance with SS Greenlight or a team like that. But to see ThorSport go back to Ford, commit to Hailie Deegan, I think she has all the right resources in place to take that step forward. But again, it needs to happen because, like we said at the start of the show, I think it's a make or break year. And, you think back to, her K&N days, it's been 3.5 years since she won anything. You talk about, her career in ARCA, the one season that she did, came close a couple times, had a couple of runner-up finishes, and then, her 2 seasons in trucks where she's only picked up a few top tens. There needs to be a step forward, but I think ThorSport is a very good environment for her, and I think they're going to provide her the resources where she can do that. We have another comment coming in from Ken here. I see Hailie Deegan not having a successful season in 2023, period. But she can drive, but she will be overwhelmed at ThorSport and be expected to win races and get in the top 10 and top 5, which she has never. Well, never isn't quite accurate. Like we said, she has had a few top 10s, but I do get what you're saying, Ken. I think there needs to be a bigger step taken forward than we've seen over the last couple of years. And I think it's less likely than likely that we see her competing for race wins next season, at least right out of the gate. But I do think she does have an opportunity to be in the top 10 and top 5 more often than she was at with David Gilliland Racing. And you say has never run top 10 the entire race. I think that's another good point that you bring up as well. Her top 10s at Gateway and Talladega. That there were some attrition factors that allowed her to place higher up there, but we'll just have to wait and see. There's a lot of things coming our way in 2023. We're not even in the calendar year yet, so we're going to have to wait a bit and see what happens. Casey also asking, what are your thoughts on having all the ARCA races on FS1 and FS2? Well, doing Grid Live Encore with you, Casey, I think it's going to be a little bit easier for us and for our viewers to access those races, since I know MAV TV isn't available in nearly as many households. But I think that's a massive deal for ARCA. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about that deal as we start up the Encore show again in a couple of months. But great news for ARCA on that front of a TV deal as well.
Yes, certainly been really great news for ARCA there, having all of those races on FS2 and FS1. And speaking of MAP TV, for some reason, actually took that out of my household in recent months. So that'll be great for me to be able to keep up with all the ARCA action. But if I have to miss a race, I'm sure to tune in on Monday nights in 2023 for Grid Live Encore. And Ben, thank you so much for joining us during this section. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Good luck with the rest of the show.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks, Kobe. Now we'll move on to our second story of the evening, because we now know the 5 teams who'll make up the new F1 Academy, the new Formula 4 level all-female racing series on the road to the Formula 1 ladder system. As you can see on your screen, those 5 teams are ART Grand Prix, Campos Racing, Carling, MP Motorsport, and Prima as well. These teams have wonderful representations and reputation as well for developing high caliber driver talents and fielding some of the best run organizations in the junior open wheels racing categories as well across of Europe. With W Series future very much uncertain at this current moment in time, the F1 Academy is designed to provide opportunities for female racers to further their racing careers, and the graphic courtesy there of Formula 1. Well, Daniel's joining me here tonight as well to talk about it. Daniel, assuming W Series can solve its financial woes in return, how could they coexist with the F1 Academy?
Well, from what W Series actually stated after the launch of the F1 Academy just a couple of months ago, really, it seems that they should coexist. At least what they said. They said that they were trying, obviously, to get back on track as soon as next year. And that will happen also with F1 Academy as a stepping stone, as a feeder series to W Series. This is also mentioned in the Stefano Domenicali statement from when F1 announced F1 Academy. So that will be interesting to see. But we've really heard little about W Series lately, haven't we? And also, this is also true for F1 Academy. Well, with so little information still yet known, with only the 5 teams now being announced, and briefly what the format might look like. But we really haven't heard many information, but many detailed information yet. So it's quite hard to now understand, and maybe, in my opinion, the most important thing to figure out will be how W Series will really format itself in the future, because something will have to change. Because of course now I would expect, for example, some of the youngest W Series drivers that were on the grid in the last years to move onto F1 Academy, because the car would be much more suitable for them, like a Formula 4 car compared to a Formula 3 regional car. Some of them were just making the shift from karting to single seaters. So with that in mind, also it is important to understand how W Series will, if at all, reposition itself on the market, because of course we will have to understand what kind of cars they will use, if they will stick with the Formula 3 regional tattoos car. It will be interesting to see if they stay on the F1 calendar. So also that will make a difference. And if they will try to market themselves to older drivers, for example. They were great, in my opinion, to bring some second opportunities to drivers like Alice Powell, Vicky Piria, Emma Kemalainen, drivers that were not really straight out of karting, but they kind of had an history in motor racing, and then they had their second chance with W Series. They were competitive again. So that's the main point, in my opinion, to understand really what W Series wants to be in the future. If they can get back on track, how they are positioning themselves, in my opinion.
Absolutely, as well, because it's very important that we have both W Series and the F1 Academy on the calendar. They must coexist. I completely agree with you as well. And hopefully as well, W Series does find its feet again after a troubled 2022 end to the campaign. I think as well, Daniel, we discussed that maybe it should have stayed in Europe for a couple of years as well, because they tried to fly away and it didn't work. Okay, so all 5 teams are locked in for the next couple of years at least, until 2025. They all have experience and success in Formula 3 and Formula 2 as well. These are all the teams, of course. Each team will field 3 cars to make up a 15-car grid. The 2023 calendar and drivers participating in the inaugural F1 Academy season will be announced at a later date. The graphic courtesy there of Formula 1. Does Formula 1 securing high caliber teams show that they're serious about doing the F1 Academy the right way?
Well, that's certainly an important step, a very important step, because, of course, as you mentioned, there are teams with a very high reputation on the F1 feeder series ladder. They were obviously very good in Formula 3 and FIA Formula 2, which is the same management, of course. Also, F1 Academy will be managed by the same company and the same CEO, who will be Bruno Michel. So I think that is, of course, important. Important first step is obviously Prema. It's probably the most important feeder series teams in Formula 4, Formula 4 level right now. They are really dominating the Italian and German Formula 4 championship, which are 2 of the most important in Europe. But also the Spanish championship has had a very important rise in the last couple of years, and so Campos Racing and MP Motorsport are really big names in that championship. Also, Campos, for example, has quite an important history of fielding female drivers in Formula 3 and Formula 4 level. For example, Sophia Flörsch has been the last female entry at FIA Formula 3 level, and she was racing with Campos. But also Prema, of course, with the Alcobaisi sisters in Formula Regional and in Formula 4, and obviously with their partnership with the Iron Lynx, Iron Dames. Now, obviously, Iron Lynx and Prema are mainly the same ownership, so it'll be interesting to see if the Iron Dames youngsters will be brought in this ladder. So they will take the route of F1 Academy, so all female, or as the Iron Dames mission says, they will stay in mixed gender series. That's also another point. But ART Grand Prix, for example, is a very important name, but interestingly, they don't have experience of Formula 4 cars. So this will be actually their first year in Formula 4, and their first year at this level in junior championship since, I think, 2007, when they were racing in the Formula Renault Euro Cup. After that, they only raced at FIA Formula 3 and FIA Formula 2 championships level. They also did something in the UK in F3 national level, but I believe, and also obviously in the Formula Renault World Series. So, but never at Formula 4 level. So I think they are entering with a good reputation, but they are at the moment lacking a little bit the experience of the Tatus Formula 4 cars. But all the other teams, for example, have that. Also Campos, as we mentioned, MP Motorsport in the Spanish Championship. Also Carlin, they won the British Championship this year, which for the first time switched from the Migal chassis to the Tatus Formula 4 car that will be used also in the F1 Academy. So they all have some good experience at that level. But I think that the most important thing is that as we know, for example, if we compare this with W Series, it was centrally run with all the same cars and all basically the same group of engineers, even though in the last couple of years they were set with they had a team format. Teams, we all know that they were sponsors rather than teams, so the teams were it was still very much centrally run. So it was interesting to see that the drivers really had the same opportunities with this teams for a real team format. that will change. So we see this, for example, in Formula 2 or in Formula 3, with the drivers with the the top equipment do not actually have the same opportunities of teams that are a little bit more struggling with budget. Now, the F1 Academy project, they claim to have the same level of budgets. So all the drivers will have to bring the same amount of budgets, and all the teams are required to run on the same amount of budget. But of course, this is interesting to see at the first year, at least, to understand how really they will cope with it, and if that is really the case. If every team will get the drivers on par on the same level, at least at the first year. So I think that will be the most important thing for F1 Academy, if they are really serious about this, is to ensure that all the teams are really providing the drivers with the same equipment for the same budget. And then obviously the most important thing is really if they are really serious about helping out female drivers and moving up the ladder, will be to ensure that the winners do get an opportunities to move up, like for example a scholarship program like the Road to Indy, for example, had. Because otherwise it's the risk to be another W Series with the winners stagnating and not really moving up is quite high. So that would be even though they are marketing to drivers that are coming out to karting and into Formula 4, I think still one of the key features and important points for them for success is to ensure that they will that a couple of drivers at least will have an easier route into FIA Formula 3.
Absolutely, and I think I completely agree with you as well, because one thing that always got me as well with W Series is the fact that the teams were just the sponsors coming in as well, so it was all run as one organization. This format of coming in is a proper way to do a series in my books. Well, different teams, completely different outfits, completely different ways of running things at each area, so hopefully that'll work as well. I think we need another special show talking about all this with W Series, because we're all hoping it's still going to be good. I know we've got the Women in Motorsport show, but I feel like W Series needs its own specific show because it is a mess at the moment. Half of it with COVID, half of it with no budget, half of it with as well the problem that Jamie Chadwick's won all 3 championships and has to go to Indy Lights, not to Formula 1 as well, and progress a different way. So it's an absolute mess. So pleasure as always to have you on, Daniel. I know you're sticking around for the next topic as well. As ever, your thoughts on these matters completely valuable to us all as well. So we'll bring Kobe back in a few moments' time, because it's time for our third topic of the evening, and this one definitely deserved the title of Hot Topic here on Grid tonight, because the FIA has made a big change to its international sporting code that caused an uproar on social media as well. Moving forward, Formula 1 drivers have been banned from making political statements without permission. Article 12.2.1.n of the International Sporting Code of Conduct says the general making and display of political, religious, and personal statements or comments notably in violation of the general principle of neutrality promoted by the FIA under its status, unless previously approved in writing by the FIA for international competitions or by the relevant ASN for national competitions within their jurisdiction. So basically, no political or religious statement is allowed without being given written permission by the FIA. In recent years, some F1 drivers started doing more than just being a driver. They expanded their platforms to be activists as well. For example, Lewis Hamilton has stood up for the black community against police brutality and for LGBTQ plus rights alongside Sebastian Vettel, who also used his platform to highlight environmental issues as well. Under the new set of guidelines, those gestures from Hamilton and Vettel may be viewed as political by the FIA, and the drivers could face disciplinary action as well. This reignites the debate of what's political views standing up for human rights as well. Article 1.2 from the FIA status says, and this is a long one, so stay tuned because they wanted to make sure they got everything in. The FIA shall promote the protection of human rights and human dignity and refrain from manifesting discrimination on account of race, skin color, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic or social origin, language, religion, sociology or political opinion, family situation or disability in the course of its activities, and from taking any action in this respect. The FIA will focus on underrepresented groups in order to achieve a more balanced representation of gender and race and to create a more diverse and inclusive culture. Recently, of course, in the FIFA World Cup that just wrapped up in Qatar, England and a few other countries were threatened by FIFA as well over players wearing the One Love Pride coloured armbands. Now, motorsport journalist Luke Smith wrote an opinion piece titled How the FIA Risks Following FIFA Down a Worrying Path, which could end up in hurting efforts to be more inclusive. We'll bring Kobe and Daniel in for this as well, because this one is a big one. We'll start with you, Kobe. Is the FIA potentially creating more problems with this new rule?
And Josh, before I answer that question, gonna catch up a little bit in the chat room.
Sure.
I got Ken right here asking what are our thoughts on Hailie Deegan driving the IndyCar series with Team Penske or the Arrow McLaren team. Well, Ken, so far we haven't seen any indication that Hailie Deegan plans to go down the IndyCar path on the road to Indy anytime soon. So right now, all of her focus is going to be on trying to eventually make it to the NASCAR Cup Series with Ford. So as of right now, open wheel racing has not been a thing that Hailie Deegan has actively and openly discussed. And Ben Snyder, who was just on here with us, said that he also doesn't see Hailie Deegan taking that path at least anytime soon in the near future. So right now, Hailie Deegan is on the road to the NASCAR Cup Series, especially if she can show some improvement next year in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And getting back to the question you asked, Josh, about the FIA potentially creating more problems with this new rule on political statement, I think the FIA is potentially opening up a can of worms. It could get really, really crazy. Because as you said, Josh, now we've opened up the debate of what's political versus what's not, and what's just basically just standing up for human rights. If the FIA bans one thing and then lets one thing go, then you're gonna have one crowd that's gonna be very happy, and another crowd's gonna be angry, be like, how come you're not allowing this? And I thought Luke Smith's article about how the FIA risks following FIFA down a worrying path, that was a really good piece. Definitely encourage you to go to motorsport.com and read that, because silencing drivers from being themselves, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing at all. And we could really start to the people who are going to be hurt the most are the groups who are facing the discrimination and other issues in society that I guess a lot of people don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you have athletes and people like Formula One drivers who have a large platform, they're able to give a voice to those who don't have that large of a voice, who may not be heard. When you have drivers like Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel standing up for all of these issues, it really gives the people who often go unheard a real opportunity to be heard through a Lewis Hamilton, through a Sebastian Vettel, and by the FIA deciding what they're going to consider political, what's not political. It's certainly going to create a lot of headaches, in my opinion, in the future, and we'll see how this new rule shapes up. But looking at Article 1.2, they says they're still committed, to promoting human rights and all that, and creating an inclusive culture. My question to that is, we'll see. It makes me wonder now. Is hashtag we racist one? I wonder if they deem that political now. It's just a slippery slope altogether.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they already made a mess out of this already, because it's a new rule that it's not a new rule, because of course they are saying what they are saying. This new rule is that they are still committed to their principles and all that. So one article, in my opinion, it kind of leaves out the other, but it also leaves a lot open to interpretation, because what is the boundary between a political statement versus what is a human rights statement, and that is obviously in today's world. It's that boundary has become a little bit thinner than it was in the past, in my opinion. I think like 10 years ago, the human rights were human rights, and political views were a little bit more on the something more national maybe. Well, now we are living in a more divided world than ever before, and I think sometimes politics tend to bring into the discourse to divide even more what was before considered as a human rights statement. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I sometimes I see this as politics trying to divide a little bit, and while, for example, we've made the example of Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Those, in my views, were not political statements. Those were absolutely human rights statement that does not contradict what the FIA has in their Article 1.2 in their statute. So sometimes that is a slippery slope, as Kobe said, and I really don't know where this is leading, because if every also personal statement they said, I think in the new article. Well, do we really want drivers that are like robots? We are following this the sport for personalities? There was, I think, a journalist, Jake Sanson, that brilliant British journalist, that today on Twitter said, "So do we want robo race? The championship that was supposed to start with the AI and not real people in the cars." That was a failure even before it started. So yep. I think people are really following this sport because of personalities, because of the people that are making the sport. It's not, cars are great, engineering is great, of course it's also relevant for our roads and all technology and all that stuff, but really we are following for personalities. If you are preventing drivers from expressing their personalities and make the people interact with them, and I think that's a big part of the sport. So I think the FIA also understand that. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out in the near future, because it is already a mess, and they just wrote an article that in the new rules that contradicts what they were saying before. So I really don't know what they will do with that.
The FIA contradicting themselves on their own rule makings. Heard that one before. Ben's been doing something wonderful as well in the YouTube chat. There is no way the definition of political statements will be universally agreed upon. At this point, sports and politics are in excuse me a second. Yeah, I'll have to go back to Kobe a second.
You good, Josh?
Mike's gone.
I guess Josh is having some technical difficulties, so I'll go through and read the chat here. Yeah. Ben was basically saying that sports and politics, they're just really so connected together nowadays in many respects, and you don't see this. And then, well, in the past, Ben, a lot of people still feel this way, but a lot of people like, I want my sports and my politics separate. Like, I don't want to hear about politics when I'm trying to sit down and enjoy my sport event and get away from the rest of the world. But nowadays, sports and politics are so connected, where you just can't get away from either or. And I agree with you, Ben. I don't see this ending well. So Josh wanted to take over with the rest of the comments, trying to catch up on a really busy chat room tonight. Really happy to see everyone here and so active just a few days before the holiday.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So I've just put my phone on now with the new link. So I just lost. I couldn't hear and I couldn't talk at the moment. So sorry about that. Yeah, just going through then at the moment. Adam says, I'll I agree 110% with Ben on that as well. Ben goes on to say, plus more people who say they want politics out of sport and have no problem with it when it's political beliefs that they agree with. Cash is king anyways. No doubt this rule does more harm than good. I completely agree with you there as well. Ken says, Ben, you hit the nail on the head with 3 exclamation marks as well. Banning paid political sponsorship is one thing, but it's a very slippery slope to go as far as to ban drivers from expressing their own beliefs as well. And one thing also, guys, just pick up on that. Will Buxton put a tweet out as well. Pierre Gasly, who does the cross as well, every time he gets in the car, it's a personal thing to him. It means a lot. It's a religious belief. Yeah, if he does that in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, he could be banned by the time we get to Australia because of the penalty point system. It's too much and it's too ridiculous. So this could get very entertaining as to what the FIA are going to dig themselves out of this time.
Yeah, definitely, Josh. The FIA is certainly putting themselves out there by making this rule change. It could certainly lead to a lot of issues down the road, and it would not surprise me at some point next year, Josh, in 2023, where our top story is going to be like FIA punishes driver for expressing what they deemed as political belief, while most of the world believes that it was simply standing up for human rights. It would not surprise me if that's one of our hot topics in the future.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I've got my mic back now. Boffin has just sent me a message on my screen that says it's fixed. Apparently it was a connection problem because it connected to my iPhone, so I do apologise about that. Yeah, I think you're right, Kobe. I think we're going to be hanging around media centres on Saturday nights hearing things from Ted Kravitz and that lot saying, this is incredible, Lewis Hamilton, he might get a penalty, and all because he did the peace sign on the grid. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the FIA, once again, going down routes that other corrupt organizations do. FIFA, we just had the World Cup in Qatar. First of all, it was wonderful atmosphere. I always said it was the Qatari kids to me that made that tournament so special, because when I was doing commentary, I could hear it was just the young kids from Qatar who were cheering on as well, ladder. That is who we should bring football and sport to as well. People who haven't been corrupted as well with toxic thoughts as well, they're somehow better than other people and different views. Everybody's equal. Everybody deserves to be treated equally as well. I think the FIA, it's just, I don't know what it is, but in recent years they're slipping. The FIA they've been going down grace for a long time, but now they really are starting to suffer. And I think Formula One is sort of, as it normally is, because we don't usually see World Endurance or Formula or anything like that at the front. Formula One is the FIA's biggest series. They are starting to push the boundaries as to what is ethical. And I reckon in about 2 years' time or so, Formula One and FIA could have a big argument. Because don't forget, FIA don't own Formula One. They just run it for the rules and regulations and how it's done. Formula One is owned by FOM, Formula One Management, which is owned by Liberty Media. And they can go off to another series organization and have them run it as well. Or run it themselves. The FIA advise everything, but it's their direct control that's starting to have problems. And I reckon this isn't just going to be an issue with Formula One, of course, it's going to be an issue with all FIA World Championships and series. So we're going to see this even in IndyCar, because IndyCar is licensed to FIA with the safety specifications and through other things of international sporting codes. So we're going to see this affected by the entirety of sport, and it's just getting a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely getting ridiculous. A lot of over policing in so many ways. And Ben also says if Pierre Gasly does the sign of the cross in countries like Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, you have to throw Qatar in there as well. Pierre Gasly might have problems with more than just the FIA anyway. Yeah, you would have a lot of problems there with, I guess, with the local authorities. And the last thing we want is a Formula One driver being detained as a prisoner in one of those countries. That would be a worst case scenario situation. And Josh, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, do you remember in Saudi Arabia as well, after the missiles had hit the Aramco fuel facility on Friday practice? The drivers, quite a lot of them said, we don't want to race anymore, the race should be cancelled. And they were politely threatened with they wouldn't be able to leave the country because they said about the travelling and the air flights as well, it wouldn't be possible. but the way it was put was like you would have significant difficulty leaving the country. I thought, wow, and now that Saudi Arabia has got the host of 2024 season opener. I mean, it's corruption among corruption, and I've said it for a long time with the FIA. It's getting to the point where it's rotten, and the rot is now starting to seep through. It's rotted from the inside, and we're starting to see it on the outside now, and it needs changing. They need to drag it kicking and screaming into the second decade of the 21st century. It's no longer the 1970s, and I think that's where the organization is stuck.
Yeah, and Ben right there says we race as one, and I guess with this latest rule change, Formula One is showing us what we knew all along, that we race as one is dead, and it meant absolutely nothing at all. That was just a slogan they came up with, like trying to keep up with the trend of the world instead of actually trying to do something meaningful about it. Yeah, so race as one is not really a thing anymore, or it doesn't have any significant meaning given the path that the FAA and Formula One's heading down, and also want to bring attention to the comment Ken says right here, saying that Formula One will never be popular in the United States. Too many problems with rules and not letting drivers be themselves. Well, Ken, if you look at all the statistics right now, Formula One is actually growing in America and continues to grow because of the Netflix Drive to Survive series. I don't know if you have Netflix, but if you do, be sure to check out Drive to Survive, and that's really why Formula One has really been exploding in the United States. And I'll let you know right now, if you walk down the street and ask an average American in this country, about Formula One, a lot of them now will be able to tell you, yes, I've heard of Formula One. I know who Lewis Hamilton is. I know who Max Verstappen is. All of those drivers. If you ask them, be like, you heard of IndyCar? They'll be like, no, yeah, we have Americans who know what Formula One is, but have no idea what IndyCar is. And we actually talked about that a little bit on our Life on the Grid podcast, which aired on Monday night. So can be sure to check that out. We interviewed Road to Indy driver Miles Rowe, talked a little bit about that at the end of our program there, about the marketing problems that they've been having in IndyCar with Formula One, seeming to be more popular in this country than the NTT in IndyCar series. And also Ben Snyder brings up a good point in the chat room, saying he disagrees with that, saying it's arguably more popular than ever here and will only grow with 3 races this upcoming season. We got the U.S. Grand Prix still at COTA, the Grand Prix in Miami, and then a brand new primetime race on the streets of Las Vegas going down the strip. And you also got Logan Sargent, your very own American Formula One driver that we haven't had in a long, long time. The first full-time American on the grid since Scott Speed in 2007. So Formula One is actually booming for business here in the United States. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add on that before we move on?
Have you got anything, Daniel? Because I was talking a lot.
All right, Daniel. If you don't have anything else to add on that, we'll let you go for the night, and we'll continue on with the next segment of the show.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. And next, we'll be moving on with some other motorsports news from around the world. After spending the last 2 years at Haas F1 and losing his seat to Nico Hülkenberg, Mick Schumacher has signed with Mercedes to be the reserve driver for the Silver Arrows in 2023. Schumacher is expected to play an important role in the development of the Mercedes W14, working in the simulator throughout the year at Brackley. He'll also be at all the F1 races and carrying out the marketing duties on behalf of Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff. Praised Schumacher for his hardworking, calm, methodical approach and believes he'd be ready to step in on a short notice if Lewis Hamilton or George Russell are forced to miss a race. As Schumacher ends up completing his reserve role next year, he'll surely be hoping for an F1 return in 2024. Photo you see on the screen, courtesy of Mercedes F1. Multi-time MotoGP world champion Valentino Rossi will make his debut in the Liqui Moly Bathurst 12-hour in 2023. After retiring from MotoGP competition, Rossi switched to sports car racing and competed in GT World Challenge Europe this year with Team WRT for the Bathurst 12-hour. Rossi will stay with the same team, bringing the number 46 BMW M4 GT3 to Mount Panorama. Rossi will co-drive with BMW factory drivers Maxime Martin and Augusto Farfus, photo courtesy of the Bathurst 12-hour. Van Amersfoort Racing announced its 2023 Formula 2 driver lineup. The Dutch-based team gets a Dutch driver, Richard Vachor, who makes the move over from Trident. In 2022, Vachor won a sprint race in Bahrain and finished 12th in the standings. The other driver making his return to Formula 2 competition is a major feel-good story. That driver is Juan Manuel Correa. He's back in Formula 2 full-time after coming such a long way in his recovery due to injuries suffered at Spa-Francorchamps in 2019 during a horrific crash that claimed the life of Antoine Hubert. Correa spent 2020 recovering from those injuries, multiple surgeries since then, and returned to racing in 2021, competing in Formula 3 the last 2 seasons. Now he'll get another shot to show what he can really do in Formula 2. Photos courtesy of Van Amersfoort Racing. Porsche Penske Motorsport confirmed the driver lineups for its 4-car Porsche 963 LMDH programs in IMSA and the FIA World Endurance Championship, starting with the 2 Porsches that'll compete in the WEC's Le Mans Hypercar class. Dane Cameron and Michael Christensen, Frederick Makowiecki, those 3, they're going to drive the number 5 Porsche and the number 6. That prototype will be shared by Kevin Estra, Andre Lauderer, and Lawrence Van Thor. Now, looking at the driver lineups that'll compete for overall wins in IMSA's new GTP class, the number 6 Porsche will have Nick Tandy and Matthew Jomine competing full-time, with Dane Cameron joining them as the endurance driver. The number 7 Porsche will have Matt Campbell and Felipe Nasr for the entire year, and WC driver Michael Christensen completing the lineup for Daytona. Other Porsche factory drivers, Jimmy Bruni, Ramon Dumas, Richard Lees, and Thomas Pruning will have their schedules finalized at a later date. Photo courtesy of Porsche. And last week, we talked about the new TV deal for SRX, switching from CBS to ESPN on Thursday nights in 2023. Now we have the official 2023 SRX schedule, which kicks off on Thursday, July 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and the ESPN app, with a return to Stafford Motor Speedway to kick off the summer series. Then Thunder Road Speedball in Vermont and Motor Mile Speedway in Virginia to close out the first half of the season in July. SRX will kick off August at Berlin Raceway, followed by a return to the dirt at Eldora Speedway, and end in the 6-week season at another dirt track, Lucas Oil Speedway. SRX CEO Don Hawk said 42 different tracks were interested in hosting SRX races next summer, and they narrowed it down to 6 for the return of Thursday Night Thunder on ESPN. Graphic courtesy of SRX. There are also some major changes coming to iRacing, which caused many people in the IndyCar and sim racing communities to get very, very upset. iRacing staff member Greg West said their current license agreement with the NTT IndyCar series is set to expire at the end of the current calendar year. IndyCar signed an exclusive license with another developer that will take over the rights of all IndyCar gaming content moving forward at the beginning of 2023 on January 1st. West says iRacing is working on finalizing a new license with IndyCar, but there will be significant changes about the presentation of IndyCar racing on the platform. For starters, iRacing will have to remove the IndyCar logo, and they won't be able to run any official IndyCar branded series. Additionally, the official iRacing Indy 500 will disappear. However, iRacing plans to continue supporting the Dallara cars, the IR18, DW12, and IR05. These changes come as IndyCar plans to invest more in the marketing department, which many viewed as a huge step in the right direction. Now the expiration of IndyCar's license agreement with iRacing might be 2 steps in the wrong direction. Photo courtesy of at GP Laps Jake on Twitter, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's very notable in the iRacing world, responded to this saying, "I don't understand this decision by IndyCar to not continue a decades-long partnership with iRacing. This is such a gut punch for that community. After all, both brands accomplished together, including during the past few challenging years." Yeah, so Josh, that was a story that broke today. It was really, really surprising to hear that IndyCar and iRacing are parting ways. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Doesn't to me either. And as an esport commentator myself, it's baffling that they want to alienate quite a lot of proportion of players, people who have league races on it as well. And we lose the iRacing Indy 500. I always enjoyed that one as well. And I always love how we know that Jimmy Broadbent, of course, won around Indianapolis in a similar 500 race during lockdown. I think it was supposed to be the actual Indy 500. And he dedicated it to his granddad who passed away just before the race. And it means something to people as well. And I hope it does look like it's 2 steps in the wrong direction and we might get something back. And It is, what, 10 days away to the end of the year now. Let's hope we get something back. And in 2023, they might just say, yeah, all right, you can have it. We'll give you it. Because Motorsport Games doesn't really seem like it's going to kick off for an IndyCar game just yet. But anyway, impressive as always, Kirby, as well, when you go through that list and don't hardly ever draw breath. It's fantastic. Ken says, well, F1 more popular than IndyCar and drivers. At the moment, yeah, it is. IndyCar being locked away on NBC as well, and F1 on ESPN, plus the Netflix show as well. It sort of opened up a lot more viewers. And 3 F1 races next year, Miami, COTA and Vegas, prove it's on the rise. Ben says to Ken as well, no doubt IndyCar has done little to market themselves in the same way F1 and even NASCAR have. They take the 500 out of the equation and F1 leads IndyCar by a mile. Yeah, you've got the Indy 500. That's still immensely popular, but people who tune in to watch the Indy 500 aren't really going to tune in for the Road America race or Mid-Ohio. They need to find that common ground still. As well. Kobe, do you think F1 is going to be more popular than IndyCar after this second series that's coming out for IndyCar? Because they've leased that link, haven't they, to the CW for their new Drive to Survive style show?
Well, we'll see, Josh. It certainly seems like Formula One has all the momentum and taken over in the open wheel racing department here in the United States. Formula One hasn't quite caught NASCAR yet, but they're getting there. We'll see in the next couple of years, especially with American Logan Sargent racing for Williams. If Formula One's going to if American fans are going to get fully behind Logan, and we're going to see a lot more racing fans flock to Formula One here in the States. So right now, I think IndyCar is going to have to do a lot with their marketing department. As I've been saying, Roger Penske in the Penske Entertainment Group, they've decided to invest a lot more in their marketing. This is something that people have been screaming for so many years, that IndyCar needs to be all about marketing, and this is something that I guess that's finally struck the captain on the head, that this is what we need to do. So it's good to see them moving in the right direction there. I think marketing was what is really going to help them. Really excited to see what this IndyCar Drive to Survive style show is going to look like. NASCAR had a Drive to Survive like show this year called Race for the Championship. It was really good. Unfortunately, got really busy during the end of the NASCAR season, so I didn't get to catch all the episodes. But the episodes I really saw, they seem very, very raw. Saw a lot of things that were happening away from the track. I thought it was really, really good that NBC was able to, in USA Network, were able to put together that the Race for the Championship series. It had the same Drive to Survive vibes, and if they were able to get that to the right audience, I think it could potentially get some more people to get into NASCAR. As for the IndyCar series and their new show, it's a wait and see thing for me.
Absolutely agree with you. Fingers crossed. Anyway, Ben says ratings and media attention are clear. The only day IndyCar has the edge over F1 is the Sunday before Memorial Day. Absolutely, as well. And F1 put the Monaco Grand Prix on that day as well. So it's, as Adam always says, you can start your morning in Monaco, you can have your lunch in Indianapolis, you can have your tea or dinner in America over at Charlotte as well. And Adam's here. Wanted to wish you guys Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year for 2023. And can't wait to see how Rossi does in the Bathurst 12-hour race in 2023. Adam, thanks very much. You are very much missed here on Grid Network. Hopefully you get time to jump on for a couple next year. Casey says, super excited to cover the SOX Berlin race for Grid Network. Can't wait either. It's going to be fantastic. 2023 is going to be bigger and better for us than ever before. We want to get to 500 before the Daytona 500, so you've got time to get there. Ken says, your thoughts on winning the Rolex 24 hours coming up? It's just got midnight here in the UK. Who could take the 24 hours then for Rolex coming up?
Yeah, I know next month we'll have a special pre-race show and to preview the 2023 Rolex 24 Daytona. I think it's going to be a great show. Everybody's excited about the return of the IMSA GTP class with all the LMDHs. Really wish we could have a Le Mans hypercar out there, but I'm confident that we're going to have one in the next year, and the very next year in 2024. So right now you got Acura, Cadillac, BMW. I feel like I'm missing one right now off the top of my head.
Is Aston Martin there?
No, we don't.
Away,
Yeah, we don't. we don't have Aston Martin, but right now it's gonna be a huge step up for these IMSA teams, because right now this is like going up from like a I guess in with the old DPI platform, it was basically an LMP2 car with the body work and the different engines, and with these new hybrid technologies, basically like what the LMP1 cars used to be during the era of Toyota, Audi, and Porsche. So big step up here in technology. Engineers are gonna be they're gonna have a greater challenge on their hands. It's gonna be great. That I know they recently had a test down at Daytona for balance of performance and to test the gap between the GTPs and the LMP2 class, because we've seen in the World Endurance Championship the hypercars and LMP2s have been close in certain aspects, and given some of the teething issues with the hybrid system in the Daytona test and so far throughout testing, I would be really happy to be in an LMP2 car for the Rolex 24. I know this may sound crazy, but if there's reliability issues, this is my hot take. I really think that that an LMP2 car could potentially get an upset overall victory. Yeah, that sounds crazy, but I really think that is something that could really happen. And besides the LMP2s and the GTP cars, you got GTD Pro put on an incredible show last year. Fortunately, got a smaller grid this year in the all pro class. Really wish we could see more cars, but I'm sure the cars we do have in that are going to put on one heck of a show. And then we got a big GTD field as well. And also throw the LMP3s in there. I think the Rolex 24 is really going to be great. They've already put out the entry list with the 60 cars and all of that. And then they have a reserve list too of a lot of other not drivers, other cars. We haven't been able to see the reserve list. So on the initial list, and if anyone drops out, the next car up is going to be able to join, kind of similar to the reserve list you see for the 24 hours of Le Mans. And Ben in regards to of IndyCar saying they took 2 steps forward and 4 steps back.
Yeah, eventually we'll be able to cross that checkered flag line as well at the Yard of Bricks. Okay, we don't forget as well to follow us on social media as well. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, of course here on YouTube as well, and across Facebook as well. We've joined TikTok recently as well. More coming across in 2023. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters as well, Colin, Mark, Deshal and Robin, for keeping us on the air in 2022. Hopefully you come by for 2023 as well. Click the link below to join our Patreon, or you can buy me a coffee as well for a one-time donation. Edward, Amber and Zachary have done so this year as well. It's been very much needed in a very long year of covering this sport as well. Also use public.com as well to invest in the stock market. Use the code GRIDnet to earn free stocks. Get started and utilize the stock market for your own personal investment. Now, of course, in case you missed it, on Monday night, check out the latest episode of Life on the Grid. Kirby and Ben sat down with USF Pro driver Miles Rowe, need my glasses up at that point, who discussed his journey on the road to Indy and passions off the track. Link in the video description below. I'm so glad you did actually get to speak down to Kirby, because you were talking about me that last time we were on Grid tonight as well. So that is going to be something to watch fantastically during this season off break. Okay, this is our final show of 2022. So on behalf of everyone here at the Grid Network, we want to wish you a happy holiday season and a happy new year as well. Kirby, been a pleasure as always with you this year as well. And thanks for bringing me on to the Grid Tonight team. For Kirby Lambeth at the podium finish, for Ben Schneider and Daniel Zarin, I'm Joshua Birch. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2023. Goodbye.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Help us get to 500 subscribers before the Daytona 500. 2023 is going to be a really fun season. We want you to be part of it in all our live programs, plus special programs such as Roundtable and Life on the Grid. Click on the links to see some of our great videos right here on the Grid Network.